Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Dye, and I am so excited to be here today. I'm going to tell you, it's been a few years since I've done this, since I've been at a live conference. I've presented online, and that was exciting. But I am thrilled to see happy faces right in my room and share some things about my school. But I also want you guys to share with me today. And to incentivize you, I have 5 door prizes to give away. So make sure that you are participating and engaged with me. I want to give you a little bit of information about me. I'm going to be talking a bit about our program at our school, and then we're going to work on envisioning. Envisioning is really important for you to be able to think about what could be. Instead of trying to focus on where you are right now, really thinking about where you can go in your future. So I am a teacher at Pope John Paul II Preparatory School. I have to change my thinking. We were a high school. This year we just added grades 6 through 8 to our school, which has been an exciting, exhilarating, amazing experience. Janie Turf is our grade 6 and 8 science teacher, and she is running the question sessions online for me today. We are a private school. We are located in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and if you're not familiar with that, we are about 20 minutes from here, just northwest of Nashville. We have about 720 students in our building currently. Next year, we're going to be adding one more class to each of grades 6, 7, and 8 as well. So we are a growing school, which is really exciting, but it also brings more community members in too, and so I want to share with you a little bit about that today. Here's what we're going to be doing. Our first goal today is to think about our purpose, and we're going to do that collaboratively. So make a buddy, make a friend, and enjoy conversing with them today. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about our timeline and our transition and kind of what has brought us to thinking about community partners in the ways that we do. Then we're going to spend time looking at one of the things that our community partners have actually put together for us and how they've collaborated to establish a set of goals and standards for our students that really began as a way to make impact on a small group of students, but is now impacting our greater school community as well. And then we're going to spend the majority of our time today talking about what you envision for your school. Where are your needs, and how can you find the community partners to make those needs happen for you as well? So first, I want you to spend just a couple of minutes talking with the people next to you. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? And then why do you need community partners? What is the reason why you are here in this room? You wouldn't be here if you weren't interested in developing deep, lasting community partnerships within your school. So let's take 2 minutes and talk to the people around you. Ten seconds. Okay, do I have a volunteer who will stand up and introduce someone who has a good reason why they are here today? Anyone want to volunteer to introduce me to your partner and explain why they're here today? If you're a team, you can talk about it as a team as well. Volunteer. I have door prizes. Awesome. Welcome, neighbor. We're very close to you, same area. Awesome. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. This is challenging. I use both hands I can't talk without my hands, and they have a mic in one and a clicker in the other, and so bear with me. Awesome. Hopefully you were able to get some perspectives. Like, you share, I'm guessing, a lot of the same reasons why you need these community partnerships. Maybe how you intend to use them is different, and the needs within your school are different, but why you need a community partner hopefully is very similar. I love this quote. Frank Zappa is kind of a controversial guy, maybe, in terms of music, but I like his quote, right? So without deviation from the norm, progress really isn't possible, and that's what we're talking about. How we think about community partners and how we envision using them in our school really matters. So taking that partnership from thinking about them as a guest speaker, right? Because that's the easy way. Bring them in for 30 minutes to an hour, and we've got our community person in the building, right? To really thinking about how can they be a true contributor so that academic excellence and engagement in your school grows and improves. So that's where we want to move it to today, is really thinking differently about how we envision our community partnerships. And it's a little scary, right? You let somebody else in your building to think about how things should be run. That can be a little terrifying, right? But if we engage them in the right way, it can be very beneficial for you and them as well. So we opened in 2000. This is our 20th year. It's been an exciting process. I've been there the whole way. And then we got this really crazy idea, right? Let's start a program where we're an academic driven kind of school, right? So let's start this program where we allow kids to do project-based learning, design thinking, internships, right, at a private Catholic school. It was really radical. Maybe not for the public schools, but that idea in kind of the private system was really a pretty radical idea. And so in 2017, we started this Innovate program, and it ran on trimesters, also a really crazy idea, right? And we brought in community partners to teach some of our classes. They just volunteered to do it. And you'll get to meet one of those in just a minute. From that, we said, we can make this better, because they were more like clubs, interest kind of activities, not really heavily academic driven, not traditional classes. So we wanted to improve it, we wanted to grow it, we wanted to really integrate it into the life and the culture of our school. So in 2019, we formed an advisory team that consisted of physicians, realtors, business people, electrical and mechanical engineers, you name it, and they were probably represented within our team. It was a team of about 20 professionals from our community who we brought in to say, what would you envision? And a lot of these people were parents, and if you haven't figured that out yet, they are a fantastic resource to start tapping into. Then in 2020, we re-envisioned our program, and we launched it as our Innovation and Entrepreneurship program, consisting of classes such as accounting, finance, social entrepreneurship, business entrepreneurship, computer science, robotics fell under that programming as well, in addition to having video production and a group that actually creates and runs our Spirit store at our school as well. They create all of our t-shirts. They made more profit in one semester than our parent organization running our store made in 10 years. And I'm not exaggerating. It was incredible because they were designing what they wanted to buy, right? And then in 2021, we're going to be looking in a few minutes at the standards that my team actually put together, and we implemented those. So we're going to be looking at those in just a little bit as well. Our goal really is, and the way we like to think of things is, we still had this really academically rigorous program that we wanted to put forth, right? But what we decided is that we were forgetting that kids have great ideas too. And so if you put together rigorous understanding with creative thinking, then what you get are new ideas, new perspectives, and in our case, some really good products too. So this is Dr. Swan with one of his interns. And if you read the quote, right, we really think that the best way to come up with new ideas is collisions. And collisions sound painful, and sometimes they may be, but you have to bring everybody in the room for the ideas to come together in order for it to be generative. So my challenge to you is, as you think about community partnerships, it not be the teachers and the administrators sitting in a room trying to figure out what to do with the people in the community, but bringing the people in the community in with the students, in with the teachers and administrators to work through what that really might look like so that you get new ideas. It doesn't mean you have to accept every one of them, right? That's what good design thinking is. Take everything, throw it out there, see what actually might work for you. But really be creative in that thinking and open to the ideas that may come out of your community. We also host an internship program, and this is kind of where we got our foot in the door with a lot of these first people. Is during that Innovate, we started an internship program. This year, our senior class has 135 students. 46 of those students partnered with 37 mentors and completed 1,820 hours of internships. They are life-changing, they are transformative, and they are excellent. But the big thing is those 37 mentors are now impacting our community as well. They do all kinds of different things. They get to observe surgeries, physical therapy, accounting, architecture, you name it, and they're in it. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a moment and we're going to look at one of the products that was developed by our team. And I want to begin by sharing, this is Dr. Patricia Kyriakides. Later on, I'm going to talk about inspiration, collaboration, inspiration, and empowerment. That's how we're going to work through to find your community partners today. Dr. Kyriakides was a parent at our school. Her sister is our interim head of school right now, and she's amazing. She actually served in Cambodia with the American Red Cross during the Vietnam War. And has amazing experience as a nurse, is now an entrepreneur, and has launched her own business. So I want you to hear Dr. Kyriakides' experience. So I'm going to ask a question of her first. So we went through the process of developing standards, and there was a committee of people, and it was composed of clinicians, business people, realtors. There were all different types who were in the room during that time. Could you reflect a little bit on your experience and sort of the outcomes of that process?
Well, it's a really interesting process because, first of all, I thought about what it was that I would want students to be able to walk away with, which meant that I had to reflect on what I could actually help them learn. And so it's sort of mutual in that way. I thought about the challenges that our young business people, anyone coming out into the workforce now, has to know in order to be successful in any kind of walk of life. And so I thought about that, as well as what I was specifically teaching in healthcare, and how some of those things may mesh and some of them overlap and some of them don't. And so we started there, and then it was amazing to come together with all kinds of community leaders and look at what they're expecting and what they're thinking. And of course, most of us have children here, so it's also what we want in our children, as well as what we know colleges are looking for and professionals are looking to hire. So it was a really interesting sort of futuristic look at what are we developing, what are we creating, what do we need to enable our children to develop, to be ready for life as well as for their professions.
So we called these our I&E, Innovation and Entrepreneurship Goals and Skills, that our professionals put together. They're used for several different purposes. One is for my mentors and my interns to do evaluations. So my interns, and we'll look at their data in just a second, self-evaluate at the beginning of their internship and at the end of their internship. The mentors don't know the interns at the beginning, so the mentors do that evaluation at the end of the internship and then use that to guide an exit interview, and I have an example for you to look at that as well. There are 5 main categories that they developed and came up with, and I'm not going to, there are lots of others of these out there, right? So other people have developed these professionalism goals as well. I did not provide any to my mentors, but then when I started doing my research, they're pretty similar to things that are already published. So communication, collaboration, dependability, emotional intelligence, and creative and critical thinking. In the internship process, the hard one for them to really do, because they're not really working on a project with other people, in most of the cases, is really the collaboration piece. But they are able to really evaluate the other 4 as well. So what I want you guys to do, you can look at the paper copy that I've given to you. That may be the easiest. I've also provided a QR code, so you can get an electronic copy of those as well. If you want that QR code for later, you can go ahead and zap that. And take a few minutes. I want you to look at all 5 of those and think about your own school and your own classrooms. So you don't have to have a program that has internships and things like that. How could these standards and skills and goals be impactful to consider as you're developing maybe PBL projects, design thinking, or just things that you do within your own classroom? So I'm going to ask you to take about 7 minutes to talk with your partner about how you might integrate those into your classroom. We'll come back together. I've heard so many great ideas. Would anybody be willing to share an idea of how you might be able to incorporate the standards that our mentors and our team put together, but how you might be able to utilize these types of standards? Yeah. Yes, so everybody can hear you. Love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. One more person. Yes.
So, kind of to piggyback off what she said, we talked about how it needs to be okay to fail. They need to be okay with they got it wrong, or having one piece that plays into another piece to complete the whole process. Because we are K-6 and we've seen that our students, they don't want to be wrong, so they want us to help them in that process to say, well, here's the right answer. But we don't want to do that. We want to create creative thinkers that can realize that it's okay if it didn't work the first time.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest lessons, right, our kids can take away is that when you get into the real world, there aren't necessarily rights and wrongs. There are just trials and errors, right? And so really creating people who can be resilient and move beyond, I think that's a fantastic point. Thank you so much. So many great ideas. I hope you get to share those with others. There is the app, so you guys can have conversations on the app about those things as well if you want to. I want to show you a few things that we found out. This is student data. So this is where they started at in the beginning and where they came out at the end and kind of their biggest areas of growth. So two big areas of growth for them that were pretty similar were this creative and critical thinking. They really felt like they were kind of pushed to move outside of what they normally thought, experienced, believed in their internships. And then emotional intelligence, for sure, they were around grown-ups all the time, right? So how do you interact? How do you engage? How do you not get your feelings hurt? You're going to see an interview. Dr. Swan has been with us almost since the beginning of the school. And you're going to see his interview, and you're going to see, he's a surgeon, right? If you're going to cut someone's chest open to do heart surgery, you have to be a pretty confident kind of right out there kind of person. And so being able to not get your feelings hurt when he's critical, right? Or he's making a suggestion to you because his personality is just a stronger personality is really been pretty valuable for our kids. The thing that they didn't grow very much on, and I think this is due to their self-selection of being in the program, they are highly motivated students who are already pretty organized, was dependability. So their score already was pretty high, right? They had to submit an application, they had to go through an interview, right? So already these are pretty dependable kids, so the growth there is just not very significant. Collaboration, I've already mentioned, they just didn't experience very often, so that score, I need to figure out a better way to get them collaborating more. But the biggest growth for them was in communication. Having to contact your mentor and say, something's come up, I can't be there today, and not having your mom do that for you, all right? Like they do when they call into the office to say that you're sick, right? You have to do that on your own. And be able to talk with people in the office staff. Or some of my students, if you have not tapped into your local chamber of commerce, do it today. I mean, they are amazing and have all those connections that you may be looking for because they are in contact with all the business people in your city. So I have students who are placed at the Chamber of Commerce and they have to answer the phone, right? And so that's our kids don't answer the phone anymore. They just text us, right? So that's a really big growth experience for them in terms of communication. And every student is like, I just didn't know how to do that before I had that experience. So this is the data that I get from our internship class. I put together a really simple Google form. And in Google, you can create a Likert scale. And so I just take that Google form and use the Likert scale and collect the data. Before I use the same exact Google form every time, and you can just separate it by dates. And then I sort that data and do the comparison. So it's a really easy way, if you need data, that's a really great way to collect it. I'm going to share just briefly, this is an exit interview where Dr. Swan on the left is discussing, they're in my office because he had a surgery that popped up that day, so they couldn't go in person for their exit interview, and I asked if I could Zoom it and then share it with you guys. So I have their permission to share this. But this is two of my interns with Dr. Swan discussing their results, and they're talking about the criteria of communication.
We're just thinking.
Well, let's just talk communication first. Communication first. So, what did you give yourself?
I think I give myself like a 6 or a 7.
Okay.
In my 7 or 8 overall. But I don't.
I'll ask you a quick question. When we talk about that question, communication, what do you think it pertains to in terms of this rotation?
Communicating before we go into the internship or seeing where you are in the office.
Yeah, actually, that's like my biggest test for you guys. Anytime there's a new student, the first thing that I actually start deciding if I'm going to like you or not is if you actually communicate the way I ask you to communicate. I've had people that literally can't understand that you can't text me or call me without everybody involved, like the whole thing. Like we group text every time. I mean, that's a rule. And it's the first test for you guys about communication to see if you actually communicate the way I ask you to communicate, right? Because it is important anytime you go into a career, a new class, a new college, a new team. There's going to be rules on how to communicate and how to disseminate information. And you've got to do it the way that the company or the way the team or the way the school wants it done. They have rules in place for a reason. So for me, that's important. So yeah, I give both of y'all an 8 on that because you followed that pretty well.
Like I said, he's a pretty tough, straightforward kind of guy, but I think it's great for our kids to experience that in-person evaluation partner. So this big part of what I want you guys to do is to now begin thinking about how do you form these strong community partners in your own school and buildings. And so I want you to think about what it means to go beyond guest speakers, and then we'll work through that process. I'm actually going to skip this video so that we have a little more time for you guys to do that. So you have in front of you, on the very back of those pieces of paper, a think sheet, okay? And so collaborate, inspire, and empower. So let me talk you through what I want you to think about in each of those boxes as you work your way through this. First of all, collaborate is a verb, right? So it's a very active kind of thing that we need to be doing in terms of collaboration. Webster says it is to work jointly with others or together, especially in an intellectual endeavor. So our intellectual endeavor is how do we improve our schools? Okay, that's what we're going to be working towards. So think through our activities you would love to do at your school, but maybe you've just not been able to implement those, or they're programs that you want to put in place. And then how could you partner with your community members to actually make that happen? So that's the first thing we're going to think through. The second thing we're going to think through is inspire. And inspire means to spur on, I love that, to exert an animating, enlivening, or exalting influence on, or to draw forth or bring out. And I think there are different people who do those different things, right? So thinking through people could be people that you know in your community, could be parents that of current students or parents of former students, people who have interesting stories, cool jobs, very interesting paths. I mean, my goodness, the speaker that we just heard, right? I mean, he's a phenomenal astrophysicist, but his path is incredible, right? That is a very inspirational person. Or careers. So think about those people, and you may have no way in your head right now of how to connect them in, but just who are those people, right? And then after you have those people, thinking about, okay, you just listed your needs. How could they potentially connect to your needs? Our final thing is going to be empowerment, right? Also a verb. It means to enable or to promote the self-actualization or influence of. So now we're thinking about, okay, we've got the ideas of what we need. We have the inspirational people, right? And there may be some people who kind of cross over both of those. But I want you to ideate about ways you can create not just a guest speaker who comes in one time, those are good too, but sustainable programs, things that are going to last a longer period of time. Dr. Kyriakides came in, and what I would have shown you in this video, she came in because she had a program that she needed to pilot with somebody. And she didn't want to go out and pilot it in the major community. She just needed some guinea pigs. And so I said, okay, well, you're a really good nurse. Why don't you come teach a class for me? And she's like, okay, can I pilot a program? And I was like, you bet. And that yes has now led to multiple years of her partnering to build our program and to build sustainable things, so much so that we are now in conversations with a local hospital through her to have our students in the hospital earning a patient care technician license and having a full class being taught on campus. None of that would have ever happened had I not gone with this crazy idea of she needed guinea pigs and to test out, right? So those kinds of things are how we can empower these programs and create sustainable and long-lasting relationships. So we have about 8 minutes left. So let's take, it's not much time, but this is just a time for you to begin the thinking. The hard thinking needs to actually not happen here. It needs to go back and happen in your school and in your community. So you can practice the tool here, and then we'll take it home, and then we're going to take the last 2 or 3 minutes to think through some of your ideas. Okay? You may talk to each other too. Collaborate. Okay, let's come back together again. So if you had a great idea that you heard or want to share your idea about a need or someone who's inspirational or how you can empower, I'd love to hear that from you now.
I'm elementary, and so we are really trying to tap into the middle school and the high school kids to solve some of our needs instead of necessarily a business partner. You know, like seems like there's a rollover with business partners, and sometimes they want publicity, but they're not willing to put in the work. So we're trying to set up some expectations, but Sam's wife is the principal at the middle school, and she has been great to partner and send kids over, and they've already gone through the middle school, so they know the expectations as we're developing new programs. So some of the best partners are kind of built in. And I'm thinking about the schools with the older kids partnering within has been a lot, very helpful.
Love it. That's a great idea. So yeah, thinking differently, right? So maybe they don't have to be business, but maybe they can be those older students coming into your building. Another idea.
Some of them have recently come around to do some public, like they were giving a presentation and they were really not doing a great job. They needed some work with their eye contact and their, projection of their voices and all. And so we thought maybe we could bring in somebody from Toastmasters to just come and give them some tips and maybe work with them on an ongoing basis. But
That's a great idea. Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's individual in terms of how you need it and what your goals are, and that will help define who your partners are. I want to just share a couple of the things that we've done. So we've actually, some of our people can't come during the school day. They're busy too. So we've actually created an after-school learning series. So Dr. Kyriakides also has a brother who's she's a nurse, he's a doctor, and so they're actually doing a clinical skills class after school. It meets once a month, and sorry, it's telling me my time's about up. So they're coming in and working, which is great. Our kids love it. We have, if you do science fair or STEM expo, we have evaluators come in for that. We have research mentors, so we partner and send our students sometimes to Vanderbilt and sometimes to MTSU as well. We have partnerships with organizations such as we partner with Haiti 180. It's a mission group, and our students partner and developed all kinds of things with them. And then we also bring in, to make our projects better, our entrepreneurial projects better, we also bring in mentors for that as well. You've been amazing, and I want to thank you for sharing all of your ideas today. If you have any questions or just want to chat more about your community, my information's here, and I also have cards, and you can connect with me on the app as well. Thank you very much.